I don't belong here. I scammed and hustled my way into this TEDx talk. I have nothing important to say, and at most 2, maybe 3 people might watch this video because I don't belong here. Am I the only one that's ever felt this way? Like you're successful, but only because someone else fell out of the running. Someone just liked you, or they needed a female face. I would say probably not, because according to medical news today, approximately 70% of us feel symptoms of IS, more commonly known as imposter syndrome. So what is imposter syndrome? Coined and developed by Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes in their 1978 seminal article, The Imposter Phenomenon in High-Achieving Women, Dynamics and Therapeutic Intervention. It is described as the feeling of immense doubt in one's skill set and the way others view one's competence. That feeling of not measuring up, not being good enough, can creep in at any time, like while you're giving your TEDx talk. I'm by no means at the height of my career success. I have 11 years as an on-set casting, story, and supervising producer for major television programs. I've produced promo campaigns for the BET Awards. I've created digital pieces for successful brands. I've cast a winner of America's Next Top Model, produced several hit seasons of the show, and have even been tapped to launch an international franchise for the show. And yet and still, it is a constant battle to remind myself that I'm good enough. When I was asked to give this TEDx talk, it took me a while to get back to the organizers. Not because I didn't think it was a cool opportunity, but because I knew that for however long, I would have to stand in front of you and show and prove that I thought I was good enough to stand in the ranks of other amazing TED speakers. For a long time, I didn't think I was good enough. Fear, lack of control of the outcome, stepping out of my comfort zone of being behind the scenes. All viable reasons to say no. 2020 has already been a lot. This is not the best time to test my boundaries, expose my weaknesses. Or maybe it's the perfect time. Maybe this is our year of fearlessness. The year that we don't just call out the fear, but we conquer it. Don't just step out of our comfort zone, but we live outside of it. Because it's not about whether you're scared or not, it's whether you're there or not. So now that we know what imposter syndrome is, let's talk about who's susceptible to it. As I mentioned, it's highly seen in minority groups. But when I look at myself, I see 3 main identifiers. I'm a Black woman, I'm a Caribbean national who lives outside of my own country, and I'm a creative that works in a corporate environment, which means at any given time, I could be the only creative wildcard voice in a room full of otherwise professional perspectives. Now, these may not be yours. We can all think of 1 or 2 identifiers that make us the outlier in any given room. But if you've ever felt like your voice didn't matter, if you've ever felt like your voice didn't belong, you're wrong. Speaking up makes you the most valuable asset in the room, because it's not about whether you're scared or not, it's whether you're there or not. So now that we talked about who can feel imposter syndrome, spoiler alert, everyone, let's talk about the causes. First, internal causes. Internal causes can range from unresolved issues from the past to unresolved esteem issues, but the root is always fear. Fear of being exposed can lead to anxiety. Fear of being praised too much can cause you to shrink and be passed over for growth opportunities. 2 particular internal fears that I've had to work on are 1, the fear of being unprepared. Overworking yourself past healthy boundaries, what I call the duck panic. Have you ever seen ducks gliding on water seemingly calm, but you look below the surface and their legs are paddling like all hell? There's nothing wrong with hard work, but when you have imposter syndrome, you feel the smallest accomplishment can't happen unless you work yourself 3 and 4 times harder than everybody else. Remember, panic is not part of preparation. Internal cause number 2, fear of not being liked, being a yes person. Traditionally, this is seen in women who hide their success to appear more feminine and more likable. Now we do it when we defer to people who we think are more liked or better suited for leadership. In the Caribbean, there's a cultural message that is sent at the age of 11 when we sit a test that determines what school we go to an extent, our social circle, and to a larger extent, our social standing later on in life. That small distinction of what school you went to can really influence how comfortable you feel later on in life. Speaking up in a room where you feel like your educational background is not the one that most people associate with professional leadership. You feel like you're being a team player, but what you're really doing is robbing the room of a fresh perspective. Because it's not about whether you're scared or not, it's whether you're there or not. Now, internal causes are real, but imposter syndrome is not just all in your head. It's not just you. There are also external causes. For instance, overpraise. As children, we all heard, you're so naturally gifted at things. You don't even have to try, you're so smart. And that's a great thing. But for someone with IS, it sends the message that you have to automatically be good at everything you do and can cause a fear of failure. You're really good at this one thing right here in this small box. Step out of that box and you fail. And for someone like that, failure is a lack of identity. We have to leave room for our kids, our colleagues, our loved ones to fumble without it affecting how we value them. External cause number 2, absence of relatable role models. Being the first in your family or community to achieve incredible success can be an amazing thing. You can be a unique voice and open eyes to new cultures. But for someone with IS, a lack of relatable role models can really be daunting. You feel isolated, a pressure to represent the entire community. You can't mess up, and you feel like the only value you really bring to the group is that one perspective. Combating imposter syndrome is important. As women, as Caribbean people, as minority groups, the world is not engineered to make space for us as our truest selves versus the stereotypes that are easier for them to believe. We make that even easier when we discount our work, our skill, and our value. It is up to us to show up as our truest selves and stand in that power. Because until we claim the fullness of what we bring to the table, we'll never feel comfortable sitting at it. Because it's not about whether you're scared or not, it's whether you're there or not. So we've talked about how important it is to combat imposter syndrome. How do we deal with it? Everyone has different methods, but psychologist Ellen Hendrickson formed a list for Psychology Today that really resonated with me. And 3 tips that I love are: 1, find your tribe. My tribe consists of my friends and family that understand imposter syndrome. They listen, they don't discount it, but they remind me that the same doubts and fears that I feel every time are the same ones I dealt with in the past, and it always works out. Tip number 2, expect failure. A big part of why I was hesitant to do this TEDx talk is because all my life I've been told I talk really fast, I'm hard to understand, and I trip over words. But so what? If I stumble, stutter, or even forget something I wanted to say, does that make what I've shared here less true? Fear of imperfection is a fear of progress, and progress is essential. Tip number 3, watch how you talk to yourself. No matter who tells you how important, how amazing, how gifted you are, the most important voice is yours. So learn how to say, I can do this. Write it on post-its on the wall. Read books that reinforce it. Learn to accept the compliment without tearing it to parts. You are in that meeting room. You are on that list, on that TEDx platform, because you showed up for others. So show up for yourself. It's like my favorite quote attributed to Maggie Kuhn: speak your mind even if your voice shakes. Or, as I like to say, it's not about whether you're scared or not, it's whether you're there or not. And we're here.